Hello, this is Travis Richards with J County Development Corporation with an update on our 2022 activities. So today we're going to talk a little bit about background and history of J County Development, economic and community development, talk about our strategic plan and some projects that we have going on to support that, alphabet soup, which will be interesting, regionalism and resources, and of course a preview for some of the things we have in store for 2023. So first up, background and history. JCDC's mission is to enhance the quality of life in J County by assisting in the creation, retention, and reinvestment of wealth and increasing the number and quality of employment opportunities. And if you've heard me talk about this before, you know that it's all about two words: jobs and investment. So that is really the key focus of JCDC. And how do we do that? Well, we work to attract and grow industries. We help small businesses form and grow. We apply for and manage grants for our communities, assist with workforce development, advise local government, and of course, support local planning efforts. So a timeline of the organization. In the late 70s and early 80s, there was a global recession that left many manufacturers in the Midwest, shedding jobs and causing lots of economic issues. In J County specifically, the Scheller Globe plant closed in 1982, which cost the county about 1,000 jobs. So in response, there was a group of folks that met and started to meet. They called themselves the Redcoats. And in 1985, they formally organized J County Development Corporation. And at that time, the organization went about creating industrial parks and trying to attract new industries. In 1989, the county then instituted the EDIT tax, that's Economic Development Income Tax, to fund development projects and the organization. And in 2000, the county created the Community Development position to help communities develop their local assets. So, what are economic and community development? Well, economic development is a process of targeted activities and programs that work to improve the economic well-being and quality of life for a community by building local wealth, diversifying the economy, creating and retaining jobs, and building the tax base. So again, it's those two words. It's jobs and it's investment. So traditional economic development is really focused on manufacturing and industries traditionally. It's all about bringing in that investment in jobs. It's locally based. It's all about our community. There's a lot of discussion on incentives and infrastructure, job training. And the thought is if you create the jobs, the people will move here to fill them. So while this is far from the only thing we do today, industrial attraction is still an important part of our approach. To give you a sense of what this looks like, here's an RFI from a couple years ago through the state. You can see that they are looking for an existing building or a build-to-suit site. And they've included utility requirements, building size requirements, and some other things there. These requests usually come in with about 3 or 4 days to respond. So we have to know our sites, we have to know our incentives, and we have to know our communities. We don't have time to figure those things out once a site comes along or an opportunity comes along. So suppose we respond to one of these requests. We get dropped into a site selection funnel. I think this is a good visual to help figure this out. So using this image as a guide, let's pretend there are 500 sites submitted for review. Request goes out, manufacturer's looking for a place to locate, 500 communities respond. The site selection consultant or the company reviews the properties and they weed out ones that they don't want to consider for various reasons. Could be the geolocation, could be local infrastructure, could be workforce, could be anything. So the 500 becomes 50. Then the remaining properties get screened more closely. They might calculate logistics costs, tax liabilities, or whatever else is important to them. Those 50 are now 5. Then they go on to site visits. So site visits have traditionally been in person, where a company, site select or whatever comes to the community, but sometimes they're done virtually now also. COVID changed a lot of things about the world, no doubt about that. So those 5 remaining sites now become 2. So then the company goes into negotiation and selection, where they arrive at the final site. And you can imagine this process can take weeks, months, or years depending on business, the business, their preferences, the speed with which they want to go, and just their individual situation. So, as you may have guessed, there are some issues with only pursuing traditional economic development in this strategy. So, the image here comes from David Terrell at Ball State University. So, David, if you're watching, I'm sorry for stealing, but I think you hit the nail on the head here. So, consider this flattery, I guess. So, these images are of a canning factory, or various canning factories through the years. And in the upper left, you can see a lot of people, not a lot of equipment. And as you work your way down to the lower right, you can see there's a lot of equipment and not a lot of people. So the process has become more automated. To put it another way, manufacturing productivity is still increasing year over year, while manufacturing employment is not. So there are some issues with only pursuing that particular method. So this is where community development comes in. What is community development? It is a practice-based profession that is focused on sustainable development, participative community engagement, education, and empowerment of the people within their communities. It's all about capacity building within communities, planning, and then taking action. So you really can't have economic or community development without the other. They go hand in hand to help communities grow and thrive. And so with that, let's look at our strategic plan and projects. So I'm going to step through the four major goals in our strategic plan that was adopted in 2018 and just tell you a little bit about something that's going on with each. So first is economic development. And a cycle is a good way to think about economic development. And you can jump in anywhere, but let's just look at the top. So if you have business investment, that business investment drives increases in the tax revenue. And I know this is a little bit generic. You can talk all day about the tax code and tax caps and circuit breakers and all that. But in a simpler form, investment increases the tax revenue. That increased tax revenue helps the governments provide better service for their communities, and those better services help attract population. So what happens when you have more population? Well, you naturally get more businesses and more business investment. So it's a cycle that continues to feed on itself. So with that, here's a look at our 2022 Jay County industrial investments. You can see we had over 13 million invested with 35 new jobs created. Those 35 new jobs will result in about $1.3 million in annual wages. Also retained 841 jobs with annual wages of just shy of 37 million. So Priority Plastics, FCC, and Fisher Packing were the 3 industries that announced investments and expansions this year in equipment. So one of the things that we like to do when we talk about industrial investment is calculate a return on investment to demonstrate and help people understand why this is so important. So looking at a cost and a revenue, those are maybe a little simplified, but on the cost side, thinking about the incentive, which is typically a tax abatement, and looking at the cost of Jay County Development Corporation, our operations and everything that we do. So considering that's a cost, and then the revenue would be the property taxes generated through those investments, looking at a 5-year period, your cost, again, that's tax abatements and JCDC operations, are just under $1.7 million for that 5-year period. The tax revenue generated, the estimated tax revenue, is about $4.8 million. So if you calculate that out, that's a return on investment of 288%. So I don't know about you, but if I had a machine that every time I put $1 in, I'd get $2.88 out, I think I'd put that dollar in more than once. more than twice. In fact, I'd probably do it until the machine broke. Okay, switching gears here, let's talk small business. So over the course of 2022, we met with 17 different small businesses and entrepreneurs. And through that, we invested over 88,000 in loans and grants through local programs. So those are through the communities and through, things like edit loans, facade programs, grants, those types of things. That's 88,000 in the course of this year. Does not include private financing or private investment. So, a couple key things that happened for small businesses this year. We released the 2022 Small Business Resource Guide. The intention is to be a guide for entrepreneurs and small businesses to see all the resources that are available to them. So it's got like advisory services, potential lenders and funding sources. There's information about zoning and permitting in there. There are some business accelerators that are included, mentoring programs, and everything else. So not meant to take you step by step how to start or run a business, but meant to help you get in touch with the people that can help you with those things. Another thing that occurred this year was the Portland Facade Funding Program. We revamped that with the City of Portland. That is a 50-50 match for work on the facade of buildings in Portland's historic district. So increase the match amount from $15,000 to $50,000, so a total project can be up to $100,000. And this year, with the changes, we had 2 successful applicants, and we have others that have expressed interest. And of course, the big thing this year, we have a really good time with this. Second annual Launch J pitch competition. So this is something that I had seen other communities do, and I wanted to start it in 2020, but then COVID changed the world and delayed us. So in 2021, I asked Tabby at the Chamber of Commerce to join me, and we put on the Jay County's first and only small business pitch competition. Prizes come from the County Economic Development Wind Farm Funds, and we partner with the East Central Indiana Small Business Development Center, and they help us by putting on workshops. So they work with all the potential contestants to help them write business plans, create financial projections, and teach them how to pitch their business. And so some of the key things that come out of this is obviously there are some award winners every year. This year our first place was CRC Manufacturing with $7,500 towards qualified business expenses. Second was Living in Joy with a total of $5,000 because they also got the Audience Choice Award. And then third place was LifeWorks Counseling and Wellness with $2,000. But even the folks that participate and are not in the top 3, they get a lot of exposure from the event. It's a very public event, pretty well attended by the public, and also they get a lot of knowledge. Again, they've stepped through how to write business plans, how to create financial projections, and how to pitch their business. So it's a win-win for everybody. All right, goal 2 is housing. So the chart here is some data collected during our 2018 strategic planning process. And if you look clear at the left, you can see housing development there. And it ranked pretty high for focus of JCDC. So folks wanted us to put some effort behind housing. For reference, and partly because I'm a data and graph nerd, you can see here Jay County houses built by decade. And so if you do a little math and you can back into it and see here that over half our homes are over 60 years old. And you can also see that the rate of construction is not really increasing. So housing's been talked about a lot. We feel there's a need. So what do we do? Well, JCDC formed a housing task force. We've spoken with several potential developers. We also had a housing study completed in late 2020 that told us what the need was for housing. And right now we're working with CB Development on a potential housing addition on the west side of Portland near the high school. So a lot of work there, and we're excited to keep pushing forward. Goal number 3 is infrastructure. So a lot of investment doesn't happen without a lot of good infrastructure. I think that's pretty clear to most folks. So, going to talk about broadband internet coverage here. So, internet's becoming increasingly important in today's world. People work over the internet, people see doctors over the internet, people are entertained over the internet. They control various functions within their house over the internet, like their thermostat or turning the lights on or off or locking the doors. You've got people that run businesses over the internet. I mean, it's on and on. You get the idea. So this year, through the HELP process, we worked with Purdue Center for Regional Development on mapping broadband speeds throughout the county. So mapping speeds helps us determine where the biggest needs are at and can help us with challenging the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, the maps that they put out and the data if we feel that their data is incorrect or doesn't line up with the mapping that we've conducted here. So obviously this is important to people here with about 850 speed test locations on this map. And I want to note, if you take a look at the map, you see a lot of dots. Each dot is a speed test. You see a lot of dots in the metro areas. You don't see a ton of dots in the rural areas. But if you look at Jay County, we've got a pretty significant amount of tests. And so I think that speaks pretty clearly for the folks here. We put it out and you all mobilized, and that's great. So I mentioned the FCC data and their maps, and I would be remiss if we didn't go into a little more detail here. The FCC has created new maps. They recently released them. These maps will be used to distribute federal funding for broadband expansion. So, I strongly encourage everyone in the county to go check these maps out. If you're on Facebook, you can click on the J Region post that looks like the images here. There's a couple of them. And verify your address. Accuracy is key to making sure the funds are distributed appropriately for broadband expansion. So go online, go to the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, look at the map, enter your address, verify the data is correct, and if it is not, challenge that data. All right, while you may not think about library as infrastructure, I would argue it's certainly knowledge infrastructure and an important part of the community. So this year, we saw the 1,700 square foot expansion of the Pennville Library with grant funds from being a 2019 Stellar finalist. So folks from the Office of Community and Rural Affairs came down and helped us with the ribbon cutting that day. Um, you know, there were some cost increases through the process, which is no shock. I mean, you've seen what markets have done over the last couple of years. So we were very grateful to the county to provide some additional match money from Wind Farm Economic Development Funds to make this project happen. We looked at a variety of ways to save some costs through the project, and fortunately, with the additional money from the county, did not have to. So, what a great thing for Pennville, and they're very pleased. All right, goal 4 is workforce development. One of the most fun things and really kind of important things we do here is help organize and pull off Manufacturing Day in Jay County. So this year we had about 70 students tour FCC, Fort Recovery Industries, Poet Biorefining, Sunoco Protective Solutions, TLS by Design, and the Industrial Maintenance Training Center at John Jay Center for Learning. So huge thank you to our industry partners that I've mentioned. Want to thank Rusty at John Jay for opening his doors, and also to Jay County High School for providing the busing and allowing the students to get out. The students really love this. And I mean, what's not to love if you're in high school, getting a day out of school to go and see, pretty neat industries. But especially a thank you to Kyle Love. Kyle teaches the manufacturing classes at the high school, and he is a huge proponent of getting the students out into the industries and getting the industries into the school to talk to the students, because he knows that there's a lot of opportunity for these students out there. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about Manufacturing Day. You go in, you take the kids in, you have a tour. The person giving you the tour quite often will say, I hired in here, X number of years ago. I came in as I was just working on the line. Worked here for a couple of years, then I became the line supervisor, then I became the shift supervisor, then I became the quality manager, they really tell this story, and it unfolds that if you're willing to work and you have the right attitude and can build some skill sets, there's a lot of opportunity here in Jay County. So I can't speak highly enough of our manufacturers. John Jay and Kyle over at the high school. So thank you. All right, also something of major importance is early child care and education. There's been a lot of work done with the Portland Foundation through the Lilly Gift 7 initiative. I've talked about this quite a bit over the last year or two. It's been in the news. You know, the foundation's done a considerable amount of work. But just to give you an indication of the need, a recent report from Early Learning Indiana shows that in Jay County there are over 1,000 children that may need care and only capacity for about 270. Separately, the Indiana Youth Institute adds that part of Jay County is even a child care desert. So certainly a need. Don't think we need to further qualify that. Um, but something of particular note this year related to early childhood was our participation in Engage to Change. This is a program through Ball State, their Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute, that Doug Inman and I spearheaded from the local side. So for 2 days, the folks there at Ball State facilitated workshops and discussion with us to think through childcare. Think about the things that are going well, the things that could use attention, and ways that we might be able to move the needle in the right direction. And through that, it was very interesting to see, you know, we had someone from manufacturing, we had obviously the foundation, Jay County Development, we had someone who had been involved in childcare in the past, and a teacher, we had people across the age spectrum, and it was really interesting to hear all the opinions and all the great conversation that came out of this experience. So very, very positive. Okay, alphabet soup. So I have to tell you, it was about a year or so ago, I was talking about a lot of the resources and programs that are out there. And if you're familiar with the state, you know that they tend to love acronyms, which is always fun. So was talking about this, and Doug Inman from the foundation made a remark. It sounds kind of like alphabet soup. So here I am, shamelessly stealing that. Thank you, Doug, for allowing me to take that. But this is our alphabet soup. And if you've heard anything about us this year, you know we've been knee deep in help all year. So I thought this image here was pretty appropriate. All right, so what's in our soup this year? Well, it's HELP, HELP. What does that stand for? Hoosier Enduring Legacy Program. So HELP is a program that was created by the state as a replacement for Stellar Communities. It's run by the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, lovingly referred to them as OCRA. The goal of this program is to assist communities in using public engagement to plan for the strategic use of their federal COVID funds. So the program selected 9 communities to participate, broken up into 3 cohorts. We applied and were selected for the first cohort. So one of the advantages to being a part of the HELP process is obviously you get to work with universities and other state partners, and they assist you in making your plan. But then also at the end of it, if you use a portion of your ARPA dollars for plans that or projects that are in the plan, you get $1 million in match money from the state. So this is a big deal for us. So just a quick rundown of some of the things we did for HELP this year. In the upper left, you can see me talking at the designation ceremony at the State House, flanked here by the Lieutenant Governor, Suzanne Crouch, Denny Spinner, the Executive Director of OCRA, and Andrea Kern, who actually runs the HELP program. Had a great time. We're able to meet up with the other communities in our cohort, which are Auburn and Kosciuszko County. And it was really a good event, and I'm very glad that we could go there. Clockwise, the next image there on the upper right is our community help forum that we had in June. Folks from across the community came in. Okra was there. They presented. Ball State came in, and we had a lot of good ideas come out of that event. Also there, the next photo is an image of one of the pathway committee meetings. This was the quality of place pathway. And so each of these pathways met a few times, came up with project ideas, did some a little bit of vetting and some prioritization of those projects, and then brought those forward for inclusion in the strategic investment plan. So here was an image of folks, going around the room, writing on these papers on the wall about the different types of community wealth or community engagement. And so thinking about what types of projects fit into each of these categories. It was a pretty good pretty good meeting with a lot of real good engagement. And of course, the last image here, that's us getting ready to walk through the 4th of July parade and pass out water and candy and cookies. And those all had a QR code on them with information about the survey. So you'd put your cell phone up to it and it would take you direct to a help survey that we had created to try and gather more public input on what we should do with the ARPA funds and what types of projects should be included in the plan. So all things considered, we had over 1,100 participants in the various activities for help, which was huge. All right, next up in our soup, ready. Stay for Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative. So this is a program developed by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation to award funding to regions across the state to help spur development. The focus here is really about quality of life and things that you can do to help development within your region. So Jay County is part of an 8-county region. So in the upper left image there, you can see representatives from our counties and Ball State in the top left image there, making our presentation to the IEDC officials about a year ago. We were awarded $15 million for our region, and our plan is called the Forge Your Path Plan, which lines up with our regional marketing and the strategies that we have developed there over the last few years. One of the major tenets of the plan is our Regional Talent Collaborative, which is a partnership with Ball State's Office of Community Engagement to help with workforce development, attraction, and connection. And so lastly here you can see an image of the last meeting that I was able to attend, the last Talent Collaborative meeting in December of this last year. All right, next in our soup, FFC, which stands for the Flipping Finance Challenge. So Jay County was selected to participate in the 2022 design sprint pulled together by the Indiana Bond Bank called Flipping Finance Challenge. So this event allows communities to present challenges that they are facing to innovators from around the state, with these innovators then proposing back potential solutions. The theme chosen by the Bond Bank this year was Civic Superheroes. So we really leaned into the theme. You know, we told our challenges through the lens of superhero and villain type stories. And our approach, kind of comical, pretty engaging, it was effective. So Jay County received the most solutions ever for a Flipping Finance Challenge, which I was really pleased with that. And one of our teams was even chosen as the overall winner for the event and were awarded by Treasurer of State. So they got these little awards and were able to tour the State House. And that was really cool for us that one of our top teams was chosen as the overall top innovator team for the state. So I could probably go through a few more alphabet soup examples, but you know, you're probably ready to keep rolling. So let's talk about regionalism and resources. Regionalism is something that's increasingly important. We don't live in a bubble. Nobody does. We have to work well with those that are around us and those that we are share borders with, and developing those relationships here locally, across the region, and across the state is key to making sure that we're at the table for future opportunities. So in the next few slides, I'm going to show you some images and just talk through them. There's not a lot of words, but just looking at some things that we had going on here. So in the upper left corner here, we have Karen Lloyd from the East Central Indiana Small Business Development Center. You may have remembered me talking about her and her team. They help us with the Launch J pitch competition. So they work with small businesses and entrepreneurs to offer business coaching, consultation. They help with business plans, financials, and a host of other topics. She came and spoke to the Jay County Development Corporation Board of Directors last year about what they do and how it works. And it was great. We had a wonderful discussion there. Next image going clockwise is a picture of one of the community calendar sessions we had in December. If you haven't heard about the community calendar, stay tuned. We're going to talk a little more about that in just a moment. But definitely we want you to check that out, be a part of it. I think it's a pretty big deal for the community. The lower right corner is an image of Mitch Landis, who by the way is a Jay County native, from Connexus. He works for Connexus. speaking to about 25 representatives from the Jay County manufacturers here about manufacturing readiness grants. So that was an event pulled together by Linda Walzak from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation and I. And it was very well attended and very good, and it was great to have so many manufacturers at the table and interested in the content. So speaking of Linda Walzak, she has recently moved into a new role with the IEDC. She's Vice President of Business Retention and Expansion. And she spoke to our board about the IEDC and what they're doing to spur economic development across the state. So it was great to hear from her, have her come in and explain, what they do and how it works and how they work with us on the local side and how we can partner together. All right, also this year we visited with other communities in the region. So the images on the left here of your screen, those are from a visit to Rushville that we took in conjunction with the cultural district team that's working here in Portland to try and build capacity towards becoming a recognized cultural district by the state of Indiana, by the Indiana Arts Commission, and also by members of our Main Street group. So that was a very good visit. If you're not familiar with Rushville, we have a lot of similarities with them. Think about population. Rushville's population is about 5,000, where Portland's is about 6,000. The county there is about 17,000, where we're about 20. They have an ag background. There's a lot of similarities, and so it was great to get together with them, learn more about some of the things they're doing. They actually were a Stellar Award winner a few years ago, so we got to see some of the things that they did with the some of the projects they've implemented through that Stellar process, and it was great. We also, the Main Street group in Portland, took a visit to Union City. I apparently left my phone in my pocket or in my office that day. For whatever reason, I took no pictures of our visit to Union City. But it was great to meet with the mayor over there and walk through the downtown and see some of the things that they're doing there. Obviously, we're in geographic close proximity, so we have a lot of similarities in that respect. It was great to talk with him, build that relationship a little bit. Also here, the images on the right, you can see a couple pictures of myself and my board president. We were invited to attend the Randolph County Gala by a Randolph County United board member. So that was great. That was the evening they announced their new CEO, so I was able that they had hired him, so I was able to meet with him and have a few moments to speak with him. And so again, just want to stress that building these relationships across the region and across the state is really, really important. So this year we also met with several elected officials. In the upper left-hand corner is a picture I took at the filling station in Bern last fall. I was invited to attend and hear remarks from Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, David Terrell of Ball State, the Indiana Communities Institute, and Denny Spinner with Okra. They spoke about a report on rural Indiana communities that are prepared to grow in the post-COVID economy. Now, if you've not read the 100-plus page report, I will give you a spoiler alert. Jay County is one of those communities, so that bodes well for us. So it was great to go to that event. I was really kind of tickled. I walked in the door, and there stands the Lieutenant Governor, and walk up to her. She's introduced or welcoming people as they come in, and she recognized me right away. And the first thing out of her mouth is, "Hey, how's your help plan coming?" That she was really interested and wanted to know, and so that was really neat for me. Also, we were able to host roundtable discussions on economic development with our U.S. Senator Braun and Congressman Jim Banks. So had some local officials attend that. Was very glad to have them here and be a part of that. And then in the lower right, it was interesting to hear remarks from Governor Holcomb this year at the annual IEDA conference. He came in, had no notes. He kind of shot from the hip, but it was really interesting to listen to him speak. He referred to a lot of stats and figures and he really had them pretty good down for memory. So that was really fun to just sit, like 2 rows back and listen to the governor speak. All right, so I mentioned IEDA conference. That is Indiana Economic Development Association. I'm a member of that association, and earlier this year I was asked to present at the June conference and talk about rural leadership. there are folks across the state who look at Jay County and think that we have done a really nice job in the past of related to rural leadership and making things happen in a rural community that you might not expect from a community our size and in our location. So I talked about how Jay County has consistently outperformed expectations by working together cooperatively, and that's something that's still vitally important. And if you notice in the picture here in that upper left image, it's not just me, but I invited one of the members of our winning Flipping Finance Challenge team to talk with us. I spoke about things that Jay County has done in the past. Their solution was to create a youth leadership committee or youth leadership group council and really kind of start to groom and train the leaders of tomorrow. And so that's kind of that link or that bridge that, yes, we've had a lot of success in the past, but we've really got to keep thinking forward too. And so it was great to have her along and talk about the future and encourage communities to maybe pick up a few pointers from things we've done. And also we encourage them to participate in Flipping Finance Challenge if they have the opportunity. In addition to that, I was honored to be a guest on a couple of podcasts, one with the IEDA, one with the Indiana Bond Bank, and that was a lot of fun, and was able to get Jay County out there and maybe seen by a little bit wider audience, so that was great. Also this year in our regional livability publication, there were a couple articles, one on Portland and one on Red Key, which were very popular, so that was great to see. And hopefully you've seen or heard, but we built and launched a brand new website this year. It's jayregion.com. That's JAYREGION.com. The intent here is to help market the county. So it features pages on having fun, working, living, doing business, and getting connected, all in Jay County. And it really serves as a landing page with a lot of links to other Jay County sites and other organizations. And this is also where you can access the new community calendar that I mentioned before. So to go along with this, we've got social media accounts on Facebook and LinkedIn. They're both titled Jay Region. If you're not a follower and if you don't like them, then go do that today, please. But this online presence, this is not just a one-off thing. This goes hand in hand with our strategy, both locally and regionally, to attract, retain, grow, and recruit talent. And there's multiple stages to this. So yes, we created the website. We've got the social media accounts. Now we've kicked off the calendar so that everyone can know all the events that are occurring across the county. And I'll talk in a minute about Make My Move. This is a marketing effort to attract folks to move here. So we're trying to pull in all directions here and working towards the same goal. It's all about attract, retain, and connect talent. So what can you expect in 2023? Well, first, our 5-year strategic plan winds down at the end of this calendar year, so we'll be working towards creating our next one to take effect in 2024. But also, you'll see us continue to market and grow the new community calendar. So today, there are 42 organizations. I don't even know how many events. It's well over 1,000. And close to 200 personal accounts on the calendar. So again, we worked with Yodel Community Connections to get this launched. The official launch date is January the 16th, but you can still access it. Go to jayregion.com and click on the community calendar in the upper right-hand corner or in the little drop-down toolbar. And it'll take you to this page and you can see events, schedules, and organizations from here. Also, Make My Move, which I just mentioned. The campaign recently officially kicked off in December. They've stood up the basic page. You can see a little image of it here. The point of Make My Move is to market the county nationwide and attract remote workers to move here. So again, this is in alignment with our local and regional strategy to market, to attract, retain, and grow talent. So expect in the coming days, weeks, months for a lot more content to be added to this page. I think they're going to be here some during the month of January to do some filming and talk to some more people, gather more content, and then we're going to launch it out there and try to start recruiting some folks to move here. And Also, we're going to finalize the strategic investment plan for HELP and begin to kick off projects. So all the information that came out of the pathway committees, the broadband mapping, the help forum, all those things, all that was condensed into a list of projects, information about those projects, a short write-up, some cost estimates, particular things that we can be doing to start kicking those off, along with history about the county and more information. The document is really intended to be part marketing and part investment. And so it's encouraging not only us to invest in ourselves, but for other folks to invest in the county. So all that information has been submitted to Okra and Purdue, and they are currently working with the plan, prettying it up, turning it into a nice format that we can use, and getting that back to us. And so this is the culmination, again, of all that public engagement and all the ideas that came from the process. So you can expect us to work to adopt the plan and then start to implement those projects. So in closing, 2022 saw a lot of positive momentum. It was made possible through the hard work and support of many, many people and organizations across the county. So in no way will I attempt to name everyone, but just know that we appreciate your partnership and your support, and we look forward to a great 2023. Thank you.